any second now, so be careful of what you say, Mr. Lowry.
Any second. Well, right now I could probably say some things that would almost certainly get us kicked off of all of the social media platforms, but that's okay. I'm not going to. I'm in control of myself.
But wait a minute, we don't have to because we're going to let Trump do it for us here shortly. Did you know that Trump dropped the F-bomb live to reporters?
I did hear that. I did see it. I didn't pay a whole lot of attention, but I thought to myself, I was like, well, that is what we elected. We elected real, raw, pure. We wanted change. We wanted somebody to kick over the tables, and golly gee willikers, we got it.
Well, look, I got to say, well, first place, folks, if you have any problem with somebody saying the F word, then fair warning, we're going to show Trump's video at some point during the show. But I got to say, one thing I do like about Trump, among the many things that I actually like him, he just says what he thinks, period. And the truth of the matter is that a lot of people, again, I've said this before, it's why I refer to most politicians by their first name, because when you get in the back rooms with them, most of them talk like sailors. No offense to any sailors out there.
Yeah. Well, hey, look, let's go ahead and go to the break and come back and dig into it. And we'll share it out a little bit, and we'll get you guys to share it out a little bit. Hey, there's a Republican women meeting going on, and there are some legislators over there making some interesting comments, actually talking about all of y'all.
Yes.
And I think y'all are going to take offense to his comments that he's saying about all of y'all.
And it might make some of y'all say the F word about this particular legislator.
Maybe so. So,
Right.
yeah, we wasn't ready for this one. We didn't know this one was coming, but sources are messaging us and telling us.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and hit the countdown button. We'll start the countdown early. Folks, y'all know the drill. We'll be back in about 2.5 minutes. Y'all share it out, tag some folks, and let everybody know we're going to drop the F-bomb on this show and reveal some hot off the press information from the Republican women's meeting that's going on right now. Here we go.
If folks knew a lot of the back office on the politicians that they think walk on water, they would be shocked. There's an old wound from a knife in my back that just is giving me heck lately, and it's just really irritating, so I have to kind of wiggle around a little bit.
I titled it A Shot Across the Bow of the Good Old Boys.
Just, they feel helpless, they don't feel heard, they have nowhere to turn.
Some Republicans as well believe that government has the answers. And let me tell y'all something. I don't know anything government does well. Nothing.
And aren't there laws that say that you have public meetings so that the public can have accountability of their elected officials?
As a member of the media, I'm very concerned about what I've just heard.
Well, I'm not thinking Star Wars at all. I'm thinking zombie apocalypse.
Oh, folks coming from the border down there?
Yeah, it's going to border. It's actually going to Mexico, the buses.
Doesn't mean they interpret it the same way that I do. For instance, the Second Amendment. I take it very literally. That's been interpreted different ways in the court system all the way up to SCOTUS. We're still right now combined on both pages and YouTube at 264 people watching. That is amazing, folks. Through conscious, shocking actions, which in turn would enrich sitting city council members Scott Irwin and David Montgomery Jr. In theory, it's an every week thing. We got to double check and make sure it's like a miracle any of this actually works. This live broadcast is brought to you by the Outdoor News, fishing and outdoors for our area. Acadiana Mortgage, over 25 years in the mortgage business. Pelican Training and Consulting. Reach out to Julie Ferris. Smarter Geek, making technology easier.
and folks sharing information and watching out. Now, grab your popcorn and a drink. Here we go. Oops. Well, it looks like it's going to be a little bit of maybe a slow night. Only so far, and we appreciate every one of you, but so far about 30 people in here, maybe a few more. Starting to climb a little bit. So,
yeah. So I guess I need to check with our guest and make sure that he is good to go. It shows him online. Maybe he's coming. Anyway, so we'll give him a little bit more time. So allegedly, at this Republican women's meeting over here, Jane Smith and her crew, who helped during the recent council elections and as well was active in the Bossier Term Limits Coalition's actions. I'm dying to kind of know how or what the feedback was in this meeting when one of our local state senators allegedly, according to somebody present, messaged and said that he stated that all of the term limits people in Bossier were all a bunch of useful idiots.
Well, isn't that interesting? I wonder what state senator that could be. Would it be a state senator that moves horizontally through being a government bureaucrat and politician and is also a shill for the insurance industry? Would it be that state senator?
No, I think it would probably be a state senator who is a government hack in that, his wife works for the AG and, allegedly the AG's office is said to be steered away from investigating some things in some places. And it's always been a paradox trying to determine how or why unknown influence is applied to prevent investigations or things from happening. And, it's been said that, state senators have the influence to prevent things from happening. And I think I'm starting to put a picture together of how maybe some influence may possibly have been being applied. I'm forming an opinion here.
Look, maybe the little sucker's just butthurt. I can't. Maybe he's butthurt from being called Seabiscuit. Maybe he's butthurt because Landry vetoed his bill, his insurance industry bill.
Oh, but wait a minute. He says it's tort reform bill. In fact, he said tonight at this meeting that it was a tort reform bill. But correct me if I'm wrong. But we've had several guests attest to this. But it was a bill that was going to benefit the insurance industry. It wasn't so much about the tort as much as it was about the insurance, correct?
Well, look, if you want to get down to the nuts and bolts of it, and we did an analysis and released it, I guess by the letter of the bill, it was sort of a tort reform, but it was tort reform helping the insurance industry's pocketbooks, not helping all of us ratepayers' pocketbooks. That's the problem. Here's what you have to understand about the little son of a gun. He is an insurance industry lawyer, period. He does lots of work with State Farm, and look, I've got State Farm insurance. But the fact of the matter is, he's looking out only for the insurance industry. He is not looking out, as Bill O'Reilly used to say, he's not looking out for the folks.
Well, I don't have the recording, of the meeting, but he allegedly said something to the effect of that the AG Liz Murrell couldn't prosecute anything within Bossier City, that fell to the Skylar Marvin, the district attorney.
Well, he's partially correct. See, he's telling these little lawyer-like, insurance guy-like half-truths.
Yeah, so then if what Seaball said that she doesn't have, then explain to me why the Attorney General joined in on the lawsuit in the Cypress District if he had no jurisdiction or no ability. How did that happen, Alan
How did
Seaball?
how did they get Robert Berry out of there, Alan?
If there's no jurisdiction, by all means, please. We inquiring minds want to know. But
Yeah.
I mean, and if you're going to speak to the subject, perhaps you should speak to how much knowledge you have of the subject, because yeah, there is a bone to gnaw on with the AG's lack of action on complaints regarding activities within government in Bossier, and no action. And just miraculously, for some reason, the attorney general has done nothing on any of these complaints. And we're not talking about just me making a complaint. We're not talking about that. And we're not talking about just one subject. We're talking about multiple subjects. It seems like to me that if it's not a subject that will get you on mainstream TV or a buttload of press, it's not of interest. Or is it that somebody whose family member works in the AG is making sure that these things don't reach topsoil? I don't know.
Well,
I'm wondering.
I want to just say Ryan Haygood says that guy is a cancer. Sorry, Ryan, you misspelled Chihuahua. Chihuahua is not spelled like cancer. He is a Chihuahua, a little Chihuahua. All right, anyway. But I digress. And I can make short jokes because I'm short too. So he is a little Chihuahua. Kind of like the one on the cartoons that nips around everybody's heels. That's all it is.
I mean,
anyway.
Look, I liked his bill, that one insurance bill. I liked it, but there's a lot of legislation that he puts forward that I agree with, and that I find myself on the same page with. But I gotta say, this guy, he is just like this rash that you put an ointment on that it just won't go away. And I don't know why. I mean, maybe Scott can come in here and explain it to me, but he rubs me freaking raw. And if me and him in oil field vernacular could just go out behind the woodshed, behind the company man shack, I think me and him could resolve it.
Maybe so. Well, let's bring Scott into this and see what he has to say. I mean, he may or may not agree with us. Mr. McKay, can you hear us?
What on earth are you dragging me into, dude?
Okay, Scott, let me give you the situation.
I'm coming into this conversation like at the backup. Who are we talking about here?
Oh, your favorite person, Alan C. Biscuit Seaball.
Oh, okay.
So Alan, this rash that, medication just won't make go away. Alan goes to the Republican women tonight. And in Bossier, you may have heard about this, you may have not heard about this. But in Bossier, we kind of got tired of our elected officials in Bossier, and a bunch of us got together and we collected signatures and we forced the city, even with a lawsuit, to put term limits on the ballot to affect retroactive term limits on our elected officials and the mayor and the council. We did that. Mm-hmm. Alan Seaball goes to the Republican women tonight, and he tells everybody that the people in the term limits movement in Bossier were nothing but useful idiots. Now, citizen activism, I thought that we wanted more people from the public to be involved in government and to try to get better government, but yet we've got a state senator up here bashing people for doing the exact thing that we supposedly want them to do. I have a problem with that.
Okay. I'm going to totally stay out of that fight. I want nothing to do with that one at all. I'm down here in Baton Rouge. That sounds like a Bossier thing. And you guys are welcome to keep that one in Bossier. I don't know all of the context, and I'm just going to shut up.
Okay, fair enough. So let's talk about a fight.
I'm 55, and at this point in my life, discretion is the better part of valor. Is a maxim that I adopted. I can be really effective when I'm wisely engaging in certain things,
I feel flattered because you were engaged in a little bit of a persnickety little situation, I think, with an article that you wrote here recently. And there were some people that were kind of sore at you about what your thoughts were. And my take on it was you were calling balls and strikes. And I didn't find no offense in it. I thought you were calling it the way it was.
This is we're talking about Jeff Landry and his veto of the. Yeah, well, I mean, this is the problem that, and it's a fundamental problem, and and I'll say this: I'm not going to say I was the last media person or whatever that was defending Jeff Landry. I'm not like the last, but I was one of the last people that defended him. And the problem I run into is when you say you're going to sign the tort reform bills, and then they bring you the tort reform bills, and you don't sign the tort reform bills. You veto the tort reform bills. Bills, they bring you the bills, and you don't sign the bills. I mean, you could call that a lie. You could call it an inconsistency. One way or the other, people are going to look at that and they're going to go, you said you were going to do something. You don't do it. I can't trust you when you say you're going to do something.
Well, all right. So
I don't know what else to do. And it's a bad trait in a politician, particularly if you're a conservative politician or you purport to be one and your base is conservative, because as conservatives, we get lied to a lot. And it really pisses us off to get lied to because we kind of know it's coming. These are politicians after all. If you're a Democrat, they're going to put out silage for the animals, right? And they're just going to come eat. And if you lie to them, he brought us goodies, right? So it's kind of like they may get mad, but they're not going to get that mad, right? They didn't run Chuck Schumer when he said, we're going to fight him, and then he didn't fight him on the budget CR. They got mad, right? And they said all kinds of things, but end of the day, Schumer is still running the show in the Senate for them. And it's because Chuck Schumer brings goodies to the Democrats' base. Conservatives don't really expect much from the government, or let me rephrase that. Conservatives don't expect much good from the government. We want as little bad from the government as possible, right? So kind of don't lie to us, and we're a little easier to take care of. But when you say you're going to sign the tort reform bills and you don't sign them and you veto them, and then you say, well, this bill wasn't a tort reform bill, right? And it just so happens it was Sebaugh's bill, and it's an in the weeds kind of thing. But he says, well, it's not a tort reform bill, it's an anti-consumer bill. And the trial lawyers sent their lobbyist out to try to kill the bill. Except Landry didn't say anything when the bill was going through the legislature. He just vetoed it after the fact. I don't know what to do with that. Worse than that, you could have killed the bill in the legislative process.
Come on, Scott.
Hold on,
Scott.
Let's let Landry speak for himself, though. Hold on.
Yeah, but was this really about the bill, or was this really about the rash?
Well,
have bills ever been vetoed because the legislator who brought the bill was just plain a rash? Yeah.
All right, let me answer that this way. I don't know if you guys know or remember Charlie Smith. Charlie was one of maybe he might have been the greatest lobbyist that ever plied a trade at Louisiana Capitol. Died a few years back, 10 years ago or so by now. Charlie told me a story from back when Edwin Edwards was governor. And this is back in the 90s when the Fairway View Club was the bar in Baton Rouge everybody used to hang out at. Okay. So Charlie gets a bill passed. Doesn't matter what the bill was. Got it passed in the House, got it passed in the Senate, showed up at the Fairway View Club to celebrate, and meets this gorgeous redhead in the bar. And one thing leads to another, and she's got an apartment in Fairway View, and Charlie spends the night with her. But he notices that, for her being probably 23 years old, that was a really nice apartment. And he's like, this is somebody's chick. So, but he got his bill passed, whatever, and lo and behold, his bill gets vetoed. Not supposed to get vetoed. Edwards' people told him, no. He goes to the governor's mansion for a thing a couple of days later, and Edwin, what happened? Like, what happened to my bill? I thought you said you were good with it. And Edwards says, and I'm paraphrasing, listen, you don't mess with my women, I don't mess with your bills. So, and that's a story. The precedent is there for, let's call them petulant vetoes. But what I would say is this. So you can't really afford to do something like that when you've got the business community, you've got Tim Temple over here, you've got the legislature over here, and everybody's trying to deliver tort reform. And it's a tort reform bill that you veto. You may hate Seaball like poison, but you're hurting yourself with people who voted for you.
Here's my problem with all that. So that we don't care about tort reform. We care about the damn premiums we're paying, and most of the tort reform's not going to do a damn thing for that. Now that's the problem.
Well,
and I see the problem that you have with Landry, because I'm going to play the little audio clip you have on the hayride. Hold on here.
Yeah, look, y'all, whatever y'all sitting at my desk, I'm going to sign.
All right, so I have a problem with Landry saying that. I don't have a problem with him vetoing that damn bill, because it wasn't going to do jack squat to help reduce the premiums. It just wasn't. It was going to help the insurance industry. It was going to maybe arguably hurt the trial lawyers. It wasn't going to help us, the folks, at all.
I don't pretend to have an answer on getting insurance rates down. Okay. What I can say is the business community, the insurance commissioner, and a bunch of other folks who are, I hate to use the word stakeholders, but I'll just go with that, actually thought this bill was going to do some good. Okay?
Oh, bullshit.
Maybe maybe it won't.
They thought it was going to help the insurance industry.
I don't want to get in a large scale policy, back and forth, because like I said, I'm not an expert on it. The point is that he said he was going to sign the bills. And when he said it, and that was testimony at the legislature when he said it, it was in the context of the bill that he was trying to get passed that would allow, or basically put the insurance commissioner in a position where he's supposed to cram down the rates, right? And the big concern on that is all of a sudden it's Tim Temple's fault if insurance rates don't come down, because he could just wave a magic wand and make them go away. Well, that's kind of not how this stuff works. And they were on him like, look, we're going to do this bill, and this is basically you getting to shove this off on Temple without actually fixing some of the problems within that sector of our economy. And Jeff was like, well, I'll sign whatever y'all send me, right? I need this thing done. That was like the implicit deal he made. Then he went back on it, right?
So you're shocked that a politician lied?
No, but I can still be irritated by that.
Oh, you can be irritated, fine, but it's a lot. It just seems to me to be a lot of irritation over a politician actually lying, when what we're all concerned about is their damn insurance premiums. I don't give a shit that a politician lied, whether it was Landry, Edwards, or whoever it was.
Well, I think part of the problem with, and it's not just the insurance business, but it's the entire state's economy, is that we have the lyingest politicians around. And when your leadership is a bunch of freaking liars, nobody wants to do business here, because people in power can't be trusted. They will tell you something, and then you get down here with your $100 million investment or whatever, and then you get bent over, and they go, you know what? We really don't want to do business in Louisiana, because that's what happens when you go there. And that's something you got to get away from if you're ever going to join the rest of the southern states in having an economy that booms and feeds off the death of places like New York, right? Like, as we're doing this, I guess they're about to start counting the votes in New York City to find out which communist is getting elected mayor there. Either way, like, that place is available to be picked clean of jobs and capital, but it's not going to be Louisiana doing the picking, because we're so far behind the rest of the pack. And we don't fix it with a bunch of lying crook politicians. So it's not that it's a surprise. It's that you can't keep doing it like this.
Well, I got to tell you, every day, I mean, and especially this past week, and hearing what Seaball's comments were at the Republican women, I'm asking myself, why am I? Because I helped Seaball when he ran the first time. He may not realize this, but I supported him and helped. But I'm asking myself, why do we keep supporting these people? They make us all these promises, and then they don't come through. And we just had a session. Now, I will play devil's advocate and say, to the old thing like Trump, we elected Trump because we wanted somebody that would go in there and kick over the tables and all of that. Did we have this session? Did we have a change from sessions in the past with a governor taking actions that were different? Did we have a legislature? Some could argue that we did. I hear people arguing, saying, you know what, this was kind of a Republican-led legislature that did more Democrat things than Republican things. But the bottom line is I feel like I can't trust any of them. I'm not getting anything. Why the hell am I even supporting anybody?
Well, experience continues to prove that you do not fix much depending on the political class to fix it. I mean, you just don't. Politicians don't fix things. If politicians did fix things, then the USSR would still be around, and it would be a very, very, very successful country. Change has to come from below, not above. And, that's hard to do when people are used to looking to like the state capitol in Louisiana to get their problems fixed. But problem is like they created a system where you have to depend on them because the government in this state has caused so many problems over the decades that what we're really asking for is for them to get out of the way. And, they don't want to. So
once they're in power, they like to stay there.
Tennessee and Florida and some of these other places lap us, South Carolina. And like this is why people pick up and leave Louisiana, because they get frustrated and they say, I can't take it anymore. So, I don't know. I can't tell you that there's a solution in politics, because you're going to endure a whole lot of disappointment if you think that that's going to happen.
But you know what the one good thing that we do have that we get over on everybody else is LSU baseball.
Right. That's our little niche, and we dominate the hell out of that. So
that's what's holding us all here. If it wasn't for football and baseball, we'd all be gone.
Yeah, well, it's 2 championships in 3 years, and what I'm saying is Jay Johnson is the Nick Saban of college baseball, and how I get that is that Skip Bertman is the Bear Bryant of college baseball. Like Skip built it, and Johnson has kind of resurrected it and made it maybe even greater than what Skip had. And it's starting to look like that when you look at what that team was. I mean, that was like the no drama national championship.
Yeah. I mean, it blew my mind. It was just like, we have all this adrenaline, and then like, okay, wait a minute, it's over already?
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, in the past, LSU goes and wins the national championship, and it's either like super dramatic, the way, for example, getting the base hit and Brian Terrio comes across to score, right? Like in 2000, like that was a big deal. Or the final game is this massacre like it was in 2023, where, like you had this prolonged celebration that starts in the 3rd inning. This was just kind of, you won the game 5-3. And it was kind of stressful, but you never really thought they were going to lose. And yet it wasn't a super impressive kind of blowout performance. It was just kind of, yeah, okay, well, we did this, and other than like the Little Rock game they lost, I mean, it was kind of pretty much like that the whole way. And it was just no drama. Yeah, we're going to win it, and things fell our way. We beat Arkansas. And it wasn't a super impressive performance. It was kind of like we hung around and we waited for Arkansas to become Arkansas again, right? Like they're in Omaha and it's Dave Van Horn they'll find a way to lose. So just don't stink it up, and you're gonna and you did, right?
Start of the season because I follow you. I follow you for LSU baseball. You may not realize this or not because I know you're passionate about it.
It's a bit of a mistake, but
yeah, well, maybe so. But I was getting the feeling.
So everybody knows. My Facebook friends and I have this thing, and it's while the baseball team is playing, it's like magic. If I post something on Facebook that craps on the team, like the angry fan who, like, if I do that, like clockwork, almost exactly the thing that I'm complaining about will turn around. Oh, this team's offense is so horrible. Here comes a grand slam. Like it is, and this is proven out over like a decade that it's something like 86% effective. And so they'll get in a game and they're losing, and I start getting bombarded with direct messages on Facebook. Hey, you need an in-game shit post to turn this thing around. And then I'll do it, and it usually works. So it's like this big joke. And then I have all these people that are like the unindoctrinated, right? Like the unwashed. You're so negative. And at this point, my Facebook friends will then hammer them. Shut up. You don't know what's going on. Right. So it's this
true
thing. But something I was going to say, I ended up after they win the national championship, I went and looked at the team box score and the batting averages, home runs and all. And what the pitching doesn't apply, but I looked like all of the players on this team, pretty much every single one of them could have had a better year than they did. The numbers these guys put up were not Stephen Milam hit, I don't know, 295 or something. Stephen Milam's a guy should hit 330. He hit 295. Michael Braswell hit 320 last year. He hit 180 this year. There was almost nobody on that team that had this blowout career season. Kate Anderson and Anthony Ianson did, but at the plate, nah, not really. Everybody was kind of good, but not great, or some of them were, less than, and they still go out and win a national championship and win 55 games or 54 games or whatever it was. 53 games.
You did it because when in the start of this and through the season, I was watching you, and it was kind of like you were like, ho hum, well, I'm just not so sure that everything's there to get us there, and that was the take I took from you. And
I mean, it was kind of uninspired. And then what you found out was, no, they just did what they needed to do because this was a championship team. And then you find out after it's over, Daniel Dickinson, who crushed the ball the first 3 quarters of the season and was just really pedestrian at the end, he had a broken hamate bone. Guy played the entire postseason with a busted hamate. It was well, wonder what happened to his power. And it's well, break your hand and go try and hit a 95-mile-an-hour fastball, and you'll find out, right? And so it's oh, okay, well, that makes sense. It's you can't really get a good perspective on this stuff until it's over. And now that it's over, and you look back and you just wow, that was first of all, it was a super impressive coaching job that Johnson did, and secondly, that was a team that had far better chemistry than anybody gave them credit for, that they were able to just plow through, Braswell's major slump and Jones's big slump and Dickinson hurting himself and, all these different things. And they just steamrolled right over it. So I give them credit. And, what I look at, that's a program win. That's a program that wins championships, and they went out and won a championship because of the program being that good. And that tells you they can do it next year. So, we suck at everything else but LSU baseball. We got LSU baseball, so we're good.
Speaking of things that suck and are losers, I read your Spectator article. Bill Cassidy sucks.
Yeah, he sucks.
So
this is another politician who can't be trusted, right? I mean, when it's election time, Bill Cassidy is the Trumpiest Trump who ever trumped. And then once you get right past that point, it is, he's totally unbound by his own campaign promises. And I don't care what Bill Cassidy thinks of Donald Trump. The point is like he ran in 2020 as, well, I'm Donald Trump's best friend in the Senate, and immediately proves that to be a lie. And now he's back at it again. He's, yeah, I'm with the president, and I'll give all his. And it's like, are you kidding me? Like, you already shined us on once. You don't get to do it again. We already know it was a lie the first time. And so,
Right.
Blake Miguez gets in that race, and like the first thing he does in his campaign video is like, I'm getting in the race because Bill Cassidy sucks. And we'll see how Blake
Great
does.
one-liner.
But John Fleming puts a poll out. John Cuvion did the poll, and he's, according to the poll, Fleming's up 29-27 on Cassidy in the whole primary, and then head to head, he's got him up 40-27. Either way,
Wow.
Cassidy's at 27 in that poll, and he's the incumbent. If you're the incumbent and you're at 27, you get problems. Like, they already know who you are. You've been there since 2014. Okay, this is going to be 12 years by election day that you've been in office, and if only 27% of your party's voters want to put you back in there, I don't think you can win. Whether it's Fleming or Miguez or somebody else, like, he can't get to 50% of the Republican vote in that primary runoff, which is one reason why Cassidy's allies in the legislature were trying to get rid of the runoff and make it so that it was a plurality to win. And they couldn't get that to work, which, you start to ask yourself, is he really going to run for re-election next year? Like, is he really going to do it if these numbers don't improve? And I don't know how they can.
Well, look, Blake.
I don't see how he doesn't run them.
Yeah, Blake and Doc
he
are
has
both
money to run. Don't get me wrong, but like if you start, he's going to have like 11 million or so. You start turning loose that money, and you don't move off at 27%. I mean, do you really want to spend it when the result is, pretty much preordained? And we're probably not at that point yet, because these other guys getting in the race can always face plant, right? And make it so that people get resigned to, okay, I guess we got to put Cassidy back in. But I don't know that you can count on that if you're him. So, I don't know. Maybe that's another politician people turn on, and rightly so.
That's the big question that I'm hearing from people is that, are we fixing to shoot ourselves in the foot? The kind of the way that we did with, Abraham running for governor against John Bell back in that race. We shot ourselves in the foot. Are we going to do the same thing here again? I mean, because look, Miguez is a great candidate. Doc Fleming, proven conservative, solid as a rock. I mean, either one of those two cats, I mean, we're golden. But I hope we don't devolve into this cutting ourselves apart and giving, Cassidy a pathway.
Well, I think the structure of the race makes it more conducive, because you're not just, okay, we're going to have a jungle primary that the Republicans eat each other alive in, and then 4 weeks later we're running a general. This is, they move the primary way up, and then there's a runoff, and there's a lot of runway between the primary runoff and the general election. So, like, for example, in 2015, when Scott Angel and Jay Darden beat the living crap out of David Vitter, and then he had 4 weeks to try to recover something against Edwards in the general, it's not the same thing. You have months to actually repair some of that damage. And then the other side of it is like, you actually have a party primary runoff, which, like, if I'm Miguez, I can attack John Fleming. Like, I can do it. But really where my win is attacking Cassidy, right? And making myself the chief antagonist to Cassidy, so that I get in that runoff and everybody understands that I'm the non-Cassidy Republican. And then the question then becomes, does Bill Cassidy turn Lisa Murkowski if he loses the primary, and then, find a way to keep the Republican from winning the race? It's possible. I don't see him having the kind of gumption or stones to do something like that. I could be wrong, but and then the other thing is we don't know who the Democrat's going to be. People assume it's the worst case scenario is John Bel Edwards is going to run for that seat. Edwards may hang out until 27 and run for governor instead. And if it's not Edwards, it doesn't matter. Like whoever wins the Republican primary or the runoff or whatever is going to win the general election because like you're literally going to be up against a Gary Chambers, right? And there's just zero. Like if it's somebody like that, you're going to win 65-35 no matter how ugly the Republican primary is. It won't matter. So the real question is like, if you're up against Edwards, you're going to have to behave yourself to some degree in the Republican primary,
Right.
so that you're, palatable to the people who voted for the other guy in the runoff. So if let's say you're Miguez, you can say Bill Cassidy sucks now, but when you get in that runoff, it's going to have to be, John Bel Edwards is who sucks. Cassidy's just not as good as he could be, right? Like, I mean, you're gonna have to change your tone a little, and we'll see how that goes. Hopefully it's Gary Chambers waiting in the general.
Right. Well, look, you had a short bit of time, and I know Rex kind of wants to get you a little bit more on this Spectator article and the 4 waves. Rex was kind of starting to tell me a little bit about it before the show. Break that down real quick as we wrap up.
Okay. So, and I wrote a book back in 2022 called The Revivalist Manifesto that kind of laid this out. And I'm at some point, I've got another book along those lines called The Revivalist Revolution that at some point I'm going to finish and publish. But that book is all about how this 4th era that I'm going to tell you about has already started. And the problem is things are moving so fast, I can't capture it in a book. So I'm like, I've parked it to try to let things calm down so that I can then write it. But essentially, the construct is this. We've had 3 distinct political eras in American history. The first one started with Thomas Jefferson's election in 1800 that like they called the Revolution of 1800. And that lasted until Abraham Lincoln's election in 1860, right? That was the first era. The second era lasted from Lincoln's presidency to the 1932 election when FDR won. And then with FDR taking office and the inception of the New Deal, all the way to last November was the third era. Okay. And there were a bunch of different things that kind of contributed to a political consensus that was largely made from, between like the William F. Buckley Republicans, conservatives, and the Daniel Patrick Moynihan liberals on the Democrat side. Right. Neither one of which really exists anymore, right? Like, sort of the Buckley Republicans have sort of devolved into the Bush Republicans, and they've been replaced in substantial part, if not in whole, by MAGA Republicans, right? Which are a totally different breed than the GOP of 20 years ago. And the liberals are gone too, right? Joe Manchin was a liberal, right? Joe Lieberman was a liberal. Robert F. Kennedy is a liberal, right? And they have no place left in the Democrat Party because, like this guy Mamdani is what the Democrats are now, right? Like they're full-on communists who actually hate America, all right? And so you're not going to have a consensus between Republicans and Democrats on fundamental issues anymore. We're going to have like a war, and we'll see where the country ends up. Right now, it looks like the country's going to move in a MAGA direction and reject sort of what I call Obamianism, right? Like the sort of new communism of the Democrat Party. Like that's over.
Obamianism.
So anyway, where this kind of applies to the Cassidy thing is that Cassidy is very much a third era, like Bush Republican in style and substance. Like he doesn't want to upset status quo things. But he also, the way he does his politics is very, 20 years ago. So for example, for Bill Cassidy, he thinks the way that he reaches his constituents and voters is to have a good relationship with the national media. So you go on like the Sunday shows, right? And you talk very seriously about policy. And you accept all of the narratives of like a George Stephanopoulos or a Margaret Brennan, right? And then you answer the questions they give you based on that. And so you say, oh yeah, I don't like Donald Trump either. What he doesn't realize is you are now absolutely infuriating the folks back home who a long time ago at this point have decided that Brennan and Stephanopoulos like have no business setting narratives for anything because the things that they talk about are lies, right? The Trump Russia hoax, the January 6th narrative that these guys put out, all of that stuff, that the 2020 election was, not stolen. There were no irregularity. Like nobody believes that crap anymore. And so
Right.
Bill Cassidy is a slave to those narratives because he's a third era politician. Amiguez, for example, is a different animal than that. You can see him are already in the Senate, like a Mike Lee or a Josh Hawley or some of those kind of guys who, a long time ago, well, several years ago at least, figured out, I don't need to be George Stephanopoulos' friend if I'm going to be liked by the folks back home. They hate Stephanopoulos. And so, like, that's who Bill Cassidy is, and he's kind of a dinosaur in that respect. And my guess is that he won't win. I don't know if it's Miguez, it could be Fleming, it could be somebody else. But whoever wins that runoff in the GOP primary in Louisiana is almost certainly going to be much more of a fourth era politician who fits the MAGA criteria rather than Cassidy. And like go next door in Texas and you'll see maybe an even more pristine example of this, which is that John Cornyn is down 20 something points to Ken Paxton. And Cornyn has all the money in the world. I'm guessing he doesn't actually make that race because, when you get beat 25 points by a guy who's just as well known as you are in Texas, like, you don't really have a lot of room to make. I mean, like, there's nothing you can do at this point. This guy is killing you. And so,
Right.
Do you run and get pounded by 20 in the primary and you go out that way? Or do you just, beg Trump to make you the ambassador to Liechtenstein, and like save face that way? And we'll see how it goes.
I think you're dead on the money as Cassidy being fourth era. He palled around with McCain, if you remember correctly. I mean, he drug McCain all over the state, and that reeks of that fourth era. I mean,
third era. Yeah.
I mean, look, McCain would be just ecstatic today with what just took place with Iran, no doubt. But he was a part of that. And
I'm going to disagree with you on that, Duke. McCain would be like, now let's send in the troops. That would be McCain's. Yeah. And I know this because it's what Lindsey Graham says, who's another, third era politician. And thankfully, look, Trump was willing to go hit him at the nuclear facilities. But then he's like, okay, that's it. Now you got to make peace. I'll threaten the hell out of you, but I'm not sending the troops in because it's not in our interest to do that. And that's a market change from really both parties' foreign policy. And you can look at that and see, okay, that's a fourth era thing where the American governing establishment or the political class or whatever is much more circumspect about having this expansive, globalist foreign policy. And it's a lot more Jacksonian. That's new. It's a Trump thing, but it's a reaction to the people of the country absolutely refuse to do another Iraq or Afghanistan. If Trump was one of these globalist guys, he wouldn't be doing, sending the troops in because he knows that politically it's not possible to do it anymore. To me, that's a new era in American politics. And I give Trump credit for kind of bringing it into being, but like these forces that he's marshaling or the wave that he's riding on, like was there before Trump even came on the scene. This is what people wanted. And so, that's kind of where we are. And naturally, Bill Cassidy is like, nowhere near the people on any of this kind of stuff.
So give us a prediction. Let's say it's either Fleming or Miguez versus John Bell.
Right.
All right. What's your prediction?
It's a Republican state. I think the voting base is we're a conservative state. Our political class hasn't caught up to that. But Edwards has a record that isn't good. And while you can shine people on in a governor's election, you can't really do it quite so much in a senatorial election. So my guess is that Edwards probably tops out at 44, 45% in a statewide race at this point, or in a Senate race at this point. And my guess is either Fleming or Miguez, that's what you would get. If it was Cassidy and John Bell, I'd still probably give Cassidy 52. Just because, if it's Cassidy and John Bell, then Trump may not like it, but he's going to come down and campaign for Cassidy, and that puts him over the top. I don't see the Democrats getting that seat. And because I don't see the Democrats getting that seat, my guess is if you see Edwards again, it'll be in 2027. Because remember, the gubernatorial race is still a jungle primary at this point. And so if things don't turn around where Landry's concerned, you could very well see somebody run against him from the right. And then you've got a three-way deal that, it starts to look a little bit like maybe 1991. Different dynamics, obviously, because you're not going to have a David Duke get in the race. But I'm not even going to throw a name out, but you could have somebody that runs against Jeff from the right, and then you have John Bell Edwards running as a Democrat. And depending on how it goes, conceivably Jeff could be Buddy Roemer in that scenario and come in third. Because he had a conservative base and everybody's mad at him on the right. And so if somebody else steps in and they're the conservative candidate, he gets squeezed in the middle. That could happen. Hopefully it doesn't come to that and we start having, two really good legislative sessions between now and that election. And there's no reason for anybody to complain about Jeff. That's what I'm hoping will happen. I think this is going to bear out. The numbers are going to start showing Louisiana's economy, despite ourselves, growing. And the analogy for this is a basketball that you're holding underwater, like in a swimming pool. And when you let it go on its own, it jumps up in the air.
Right.
John Bell Edwards held that basketball down for 8 years with some of the stupidest policies imaginable on, regulatory policy, tax policy, you name it. And he chased off a ton of economic activity that is, you can see it come back with all these economic development announcements that are being made. I mean, it's just, it's real. So I think that'll help Jeff some, but you also got to do some things, your conservative base needs a belly rub, Jeff. And you're going to, you need to start doing some belly rubs, make people happy again.
Duke, you up for a belly rub?
Oh yeah, you better believe it. And I know a lot of people want.
I mean, I don't want to. We're talking about figurative belly rubs here, but
Scott wants his too. I know. Well, look, we have abused your time already. You told me we needed to get out of here sooner than what we don't went over that. So look, we appreciate it as usual, and you have your finger on things down there a little better than most people, and we appreciate you sharing your thoughts.
Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Have a good one.
All right, you too, Scott. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Well, that was a spirited conversation.
Scott has a good view from where he sits from his perch down there, and he puts out good content. And I appreciate his perspective on things. I really do.
Oh yeah, and I didn't want to sound too harsh about the insurance if I came across that way. It's just the way I view the whole situation down there is everybody is running around chasing the wrong thing. They're worried about Landry said this and did that, or they're worried about blah, 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 instead of actually fixing the problem. And that's my biggest beef with the whole insurance debacle. But anyway, I would encourage everybody, go to thespectator.org and you can read Scott's stuff there, or of course, go to the Hayride and follow him there.
Ryan, I know that him and Biscuit are, peas and carrots. I know that. And I think Scott's a friend. I would say that, and he chose to tap out on that. I get it. But, what's interesting. So would you all think that Doc Fleming was a useful idiot? Because he sure was supportive of term limits. So I can't believe, is Alan Seaball supporting Blake Miguez?
Well, not only that, it's not whether he's supporting Blake or not, is he campaigning against Fleming by calling Fleming a useful idiot. That's essentially what he said, if he said that.
Yeah, I mean, if he thinks that everybody in Bossier or everybody who supported term limits in Bossier are useful idiots, how do you square this? I just don't get it.
Yeah. I mean, look, we've said it the last few shows. Both of us are actively supporting Dr. Fleming in the campaign, but we have zero issue with Blake Miguez either. And I still say that he had one of the greatest campaign launch ads ever that got us kicked off of YouTube. Thanks, Blake. All right. Yeah, Cassie said, did he really say those words? Sources say, very reliable sources say, who were at the meeting, that the words were said. So maybe he didn't. Maybe the little Chihuahua Seabiscuit could just come on the show and defend himself. Maybe he did say it. All right. Is Mr. Kracman in the batter's box, or is he going to be able to join us?
I think he was at a meeting and he was on the way back from that meeting, so we may have to a little bit of time.
Okay. I'm sure we could. Oh, well, let's do what we promised, and that is drop the F-bomb on the show.
Well, and I put a link up there in the start of the show that I kind of wanted to go over. And actually, I caught this today, and I thought it was poetic because it actually, in my opinion, it describes to a T exactly the situation that we have today.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll tell you what, give me just a moment here, and let me see if I can get that link ready to share out. And let me get everything ready. Hit this button and this button. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yes. And I actually was wanting to share that while Scott was on because he appreciates baseball and all. But I saw this today, and I saw this, and it made me think. This is Trump. This is Trump in a video right here, because if you think about it, he came along and they came after him, and what happened next? So watch this video, play it.
All right, here we go.
Did you see what he did?
Yeah.
The pitcher threw the ball, the deep state threw the ball and hit him the first time, right?
Right.
So the second time they didn't take him out with throwing the ball and hitting him. So he bunted it to get them to come after him again with the whole intent of he was going to take the pitcher out. And he did. And the fight is on.
And the fight is on. Yes, that would be Trump to a T. Yeah. Well, all right. So our guest is here. So I guess we'll have to wait on dropping the F-bomb. We won't drop that on Mr. Kracman while he's on the show. But anyway, let me click a couple of buttons and we'll bring Chris on. Let's see. Can you hear us, Mr. Chris Kracman?
Hey guys, now I can.
All right, perfect.
Can y'all hear me fine?
Oh yeah, you're coming in loud and clear.
Okay, good.
So when did you join the oligarchy?
Man, I had no idea that I was going to be a part of such a travesty.
I didn't know you supported Bernie Sanders. I'm going to have to rethink our little friendship.
Right? I don't think anybody in Caddo Parish, except for 7 Democrats and a clerk, knew that we were going to support a socialist.
So, kind of give us the rundown on what's happened. I heard your American Ground Radio interview, and they did a good job on that one. But kind of give everybody the quick rundown on what's going on.
Well, we all know that Bernie was going to come to town. That wasn't no secret. He came to the municipal auditorium on Saturday, and you know, I was up at my local ballpark doing a little bit of field work because there's nothing I'd rather do than sweat to death than see Bernie Sanders. And of course, you know, people were sending me pictures from the event, sending me pictures of who was on stage. And of course, I see all the pictures of all my colleagues, Democratic colleagues on stage and city council members on stage. And, but out of all the pictures that I saw, one stuck out to me, and it was a picture of the Democratic leadership of the Caddo Commission, our president, handing Bernie Sanders a proclamation. And so, of course, I texted our clerk, and I said, what is this proclamation? And, you know, essentially he said, you know, it's just a proclamation appreciating Bernie to come to town or whatever it was. And I said, well, wait a minute, we never voted on any proclamation. You know, so I go to our bylaws, and I can clearly see that that Section D of the Parish of Caddo bylaws says that we can't pass a proclamation, resolution, or ordinance without a vote of the majority. Just like an ordinance, anything in between, it has to have advertisement, a public hearing. We have to hear objection or not in a work session, and then it has to be voted to be advanced to a regular session. And we were never given that opportunity whatsoever. So essentially, the Democratic majority urged our clerk to write this thing and and print it, put it in a frame, and give it to them in a timely manner so they could give it to Bernie Sanders that Saturday.
Sounds like they've been taking lessons from this side of the river, from our Bossier City Council over here. They're kind of following the same playbook.
Well, I just thought it was incredibly cute that it was a seminar about fighting oligarchy, and then to present him with a proclamation that nobody voted on.
Right. Let's see. What's the definition of oligarchy? Ruling by a few?
That's correct.
Okay.
Well,
So, yeah, go ahead, dude.
Well, what I was going to say is what I'm more amazed about is that how y'all over there in Caddo Parish were able to get the Attorney General to weigh in over here on that. Because in Bossier, we can't even get the Attorney General to even recognize that we're a part of the state of Louisiana. So I'm just curious how y'all were able to get attention.
Well, apparently there was enough people. Well, I saw a lot of social media posts of people saying, I can't believe my parish is doing this. How did this happen? So on and so forth. And so I got in the comment section on one of the posts and I said, we absolutely did not vote on this. I know I didn't. This is nothing we support. And then on Monday, I said, you know what? I better put out a statement because enough people are talking about this, texting me, calling me about this, that I really need to put out what where I'm at on this. And so I put out my post about not supporting it. And John Settle had put out an article about it not having a vote. and, potentially being in violation of public meetings laws. And next thing I know, yesterday afternoon, I have the Attorney General's civil office calling me, wanting to know what exactly happened. And they wanted,
awesome. Just
Yeah.
them calling you.
Wait a minute. Time out for just a second. So you mean over on our side of the river, we can literally have a judgment stating that our city councilman may have committed malfeasance in office. Among all the other things that they've done, we get plenty of social media traffic over here, newspaper articles, local news articles written about it, and not a peep from the Attorney General. Complaints issued.
Filed complaints with the AG's office, and we can't even get a response back by email, but yet in Caddo, you don't even have to do any of that. You'll just out of the blue get a phone call.
But you know what the difference is, Duke? We had Liz.
You're going to tell me. I want to hear it.
We interviewed Liz on the show.
Oh, that's right. We supported her. We helped her.
It was the kiss. It was the kiss of death. I guess it's our fault that we can't get any reaction from the AG's office over here. Meanwhile, the socialists over there on the Caddo Commission, present company excluded, they get a call uninitiated. Good job, Mr. Kracman.
I'm impressed. I might have to move to Caddo.
Well, come on. It's safe to say that is well out of my jurisdiction in Bossier, but I certainly sympathize.
Maybe we can get Chris to put in a call for us.
Well, I don't know if I'm the right guy or not. I guess somebody who had talked to the Attorney General's office said that I was the guy to call, which is unfortunate because I had to read a lot of laws to try to figure out if this was even a thing or not. It turns out, in my highly uneducated opinion, this breaks several opens meetings laws. And I believe that the civil department agrees with me. It's my understanding that they are going to open up an investigation and interview everyone on the commission. But I don't understand how this happened. I don't understand how our clerk could have been strong-armed into this and everybody think it's okay. And we haven't had not one of the 7 Democrats that signed this proclamation respond to any of the lashback at all. And I think it's because they've been getting away with whatever they want to for so long that they're arrogant enough to think that they get away with it. And quite frankly, I'm hoping that the Attorney General's office throws the book at them.
All right. Now
that ain't gonna happen.
Yeah. Good luck
that
with
that.
But
let me tell you, let me tell him how this is going to go, because this exact same situation happened in Bossier, and the AG's office dealt with the people who were doing a similar thing like what you're talking about, and they coached them how to fix the situation.
Right.
That's what's fixing to happen over here is those folks that did what they have done over there, they're going to get told, okay, this is how y'all fix this situation, and there's no book going to be thrown out. I hate to break it down to the people of Caddo Parish, but that's what's fixing to happen. Do you agree, Rex?
I would agree 100%. And I've got a curveball to throw at you, Mr. Kracman. So bear with me here. Let's reverse the situation. Let's say that, I don't know, Ted Cruz or Trump was coming to Shreveport or coming to Caddo Parish and gonna, do a speech or whatever. And let's say the Caddo Commission had done a proclamation thanking the president, congratulating the president, or whoever it would be. So let's say the roles were reversed politically. Would you have the same opinion if the same scenario had happened, just the roles reversed?
Absolutely. And, of course, I'm a sucker for rules, too. As far as not decorum, but as far as elected officials goes. I'm not a regulation guy, but when it comes to your elected official, I'm absolutely a regulation guy. And it's funny you say that because we had the Shreveport City Council just yesterday where the mayor had taken a blight initiative without the say-so of the Democratic majority City Council, and they are up in arms. And in their meeting yesterday, They tore the mayor of Shreveport apart for doing such. So we do have a case in Caddo Parish where the shoe is on the other foot. And the Democrats in the city are livid that the mayor did anything without their say so. And so now it's the reverse with the Caddo Commission, where the Democratic leadership has written a proclamation, signed it, and presented it to the recipient, and they're not saying a word. The mayor of Shreveport apologized to his council for operating without their go-ahead, but we haven't gotten an apology, an explanation. We haven't gotten anything out of our Democratic commissioners.
Very interesting. So let's switch gears for a second. Our common friend, Mr. Patrick Wesley. So this is more of an outdoor news issue, but I would be remiss if I didn't bring this up because we're harping on the Caddo.
See, now I'm really in the hot seat.
Yes. Our little friend that I'm ripping a new rear end via email chain, you know that nice new ladder that the Caddo Commission and Parks and Rec finally fixed after over a year? Do you know what shape it's in right now as we speak?
I do not.
The ladder is already broken off. I have the video shot, and I'm going to post it tomorrow making fun of Patrick Wesley.
Oh, boy. Oh boy.
And
well, you know, and I haven't done any follow up because you've been doing such a fantastic job following up. But you know that the pier was supposed to have been replaced no later than the final quarter of this year. And you know that's coming up, and I haven't seen anybody hit a lick on that. So you can expect a little bit of rattle out of me as well.
Well, look, you guys obviously have plenty of money over there. They're putting up that nice concrete, I'm sure will be well lit sign. They're improving the tennis courts. I guess they're doing pickleball up there too. They've got frisbee golf. They've got all this stuff that nobody actually uses at that park, but they can't even fix the boat ramp and all that. But I digress. That'll be a segment for Duke and I to do on the outdoor news.
Well, I'll say this. It doesn't really bother me at all because most of all of this funding and most of everything that's taking effect now are things that were voted on prior to me being elected.
So I can't make fun of you for that then. Okay.
Oh, you can. I mean, but it doesn't bother me either way.
All right. All right.
But no, I'm hoping to make some headway with this proclamation, and I know just a proclamation to a senator coming to Shreveport probably doesn't mean a hill of beans to a lot of people, and probably a lot of these elected people. They're probably just brushing off my emails and all of these interviews that I'm doing. But at the end of the day, we don't want our elected officials doing things in the dark of night behind closed doors, and that's exactly what we're going through. We have opens meetings laws for a reason. We have such thing as a walking quorum. You know, there are all this terminology and laws for a reason, and it's just for this. And if they can pass a proclamation to thank a socialist for coming to town to spit hogwash at our constituents, then what else can they do? And at the end of the day, I'm hoping they get the book thrown at them. I'm hoping y'all are wrong and I'm right, and that something happens with it. But I know for one, I would like to see this never happen again. And quite frankly, I want Caddo Parish's damn frame and paper back.
There you go. I was going to ask you what you ultimately wanted to see, but you just answered the question. That's perfect.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. Well, keep up the good work over there, Chris. And we know you guys are fighting over there. We're trying to do the same thing in Bossier, but we're on our own. We it's like we're on an island. And you know, what was that movie with Tom Hanks and the volleyball? Or whatever?
The Castaways, Wilson.
Yeah, that's the way I feel.
Hey, listen, my pier might be down and my ladder might be shoddy, but I got a beautiful lake if y'all want to move out to District 1.
Hey, it is a gorgeous place up there in District 1. I will give that part of Caddo Parish absolute credit.
Well, at least we would know we would have some elected officials that, you know, really are on board with us. That's for sure. I know that.
All right. Have a good one. Appreciate it, Chris.
All right, guys. Thank y'all.
All right.
See, I mean, but if we was Caddo, we'd have the AG calling us. That's the trick.
I know. I mean, look, kudos to Chris, and look, I hope both of us are wrong. We have been wrong before a few times. I hope we are wrong, and I hope they get some immediate response and action from the AG's office. I hope it's not just training. You know, they also required the Cypress district to go through remedial training too, but open meetings training, but miraculously that never happened either.
You know, I can appreciate if, and this may be the case, I will concede this, it may be the case that the AG's office has so much of this going on in different municipalities and different places across the state that, you know, if they spent all their time chasing after every one of these little minuscule things, they would not be able to chase the big things, right? I can see that. I'm reasonable. But when you don't even listen to what some of the things are, you're not in a position to make the determination whether it's a big thing or a little thing. You have no way to know. And I can tell you, I know for a fact that the AG's office, there are things that they need to look at that they haven't even looked at it to know whether, or make the determination as to whether it's a big or a little thing. And that's a choice. They made a choice not to do that. And Alan Seaball can go to Republican women and dribble all of the BS he wants to dribble out about saying how the people of Bossier that support term limits are nothing but useful idiots. That's fine. He can go out there and badmouth the people of Bossier that wanted a change in government, that, you know, we supposedly want more people involved. That he can say that crap. But the God's honest truth is he's part of the problem. And he's a hypocrite because he's not saying that he's benefiting off of all of this. I mean, not just for the fact that he has a law firm that he, you know, as I recall not long ago, there was a case where, what was it? Judicial extensions or whatever, legislative extensions or whatever. And his name was brought up in regards to that. That was a pretty big deal. He was benefiting from it. And oh, by the way, he's got a family member who I like her, but works in the AG's office. And yet he's carrying the water for the AG's office on this and making a point and saying everybody in Bossier are useful idiots. I take issue with that. And oh, by the way, while we're at it, let's go back on this insurance thing. He's wanting to criticize the governor, you know, on this quote unquote tort reform bill that the governor's gone back on his word. Well, what about with Gaddy? What about with Gaddy and the insurance thing, where he came to our Republican PEC meeting and said that this is going to reduce insurance? Well, you know what? It didn't reduce insurance. Insurance went up. I haven't heard him address the fact, and we've invited him on the show, and Alan, the challenge is still out there for you to come on this show, because what you said in regards to what Gaddy was saying, what you said was not correct, because insurance didn't go down. Insurance went up. So you were wrong.
Here's the challenge, Seabiscuit. We'll have Gaddy on and you on at the same time, and y'all can duke it out mano a mano. Duke and I will just mute our own mics and let y'all have at it. Because
Gaddy said he would come on. Yeah, Gaddy said he would come on. Seaball's the only one that won't have.
I've always just like to play. Yeah, and look, I'm not trying to carry Ryan's water at all, but I've said it before, I'll say it again. That's when my opinion of Ryan started to change, was after that PEC meeting, because the best thing that Seabiscuit could bring to the table at the following PEC meeting was, oh, Gaddy's just a liar and Gaddy's all wrong and Gaddy loves John Bell. That was it. That was his insurance reform.
Look, and it make no bones about it. Gaddy had a good relationship with John Bell. He was friends with him. I don't agree with Gaddy on everything. I don't agree with you on everything. But what I can say on this specific issue, in retrospect, I think Gaddy was right.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Gaddy was right and
Yeah.
Seaball was wrong. So now all of a sudden I'm supposed to believe Seaball on this bill and in regards to Jeff Landry. No,
No.
I'm sorry. I don't take his word for it.
Look, we've said some relatively negative things in the past few shows about Landry, and deservedly so, but I don't hold it against him for vetoing this bill. I just don't, because the bill was not going to help premiums at all. That's it. I don't care if he lied. He's a politician. So, anyway.
You know what I wish Landry would say? I wish he would pull a Donald Trump. I wish Landry would just say, you know what? You know the real reason why I vetoed this bill? I vetoed this bill because Alan Seaball is a peckerhead. That's why I vetoed this bill. I just wish he would just say it. And you know what? Nobody would have a problem with it. They'd be all like, well, there you go.
Yeah.
I got that.
You're right.
And the next session, somebody else bring the same bill, and I won't veto it.
All right. So you brought about Trump, or mentioned Trump again, and I promised at the beginning of the show that we were going to show the video of Trump. So fair warning, anybody that's watching right now, we're about to play Trump from C-SPAN this morning, and his exact comments. I'm going to play, it's about a minute clip, so that we've got full context of it. So he does drop an F-bomb here. So if you don't like the F word, you can just hit mute for a few minutes, but it's our own president saying it. Here we go.
Yes, they violated it, but Israel violated it too. Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
Bam! Drop the mic and walk off. Now, dropping the F-bomb or not, that is one of the reasons I like Trump, because he does a little gamesmanship and egging people on and goading people, but in the end, he just calls it like it is.
He has been on point. I mean, and from the beginning. And you know what he said? He's right in what he said. You know, they've been fighting forever, and heck, they honestly at this point, do they even really know what they're fighting about?
Well, let me give my little take, and then we probably need to end it before long because I'm getting some pretty good lightning flashes here.
Yeah, me as well.
Yeah, so let me give you my take on it. Look, I think the whole deal about the peace deal between Israel and Iran, I think that was a bunch of hogwash. And here's why. Trump, to his credit, is trying to solve the problem, but he thinks apparently that this is just like a schoolyard fight. And once you get hit in the nose a couple of times and everybody goes away friends, they're fighting a religious war. With Iran, this is a religious holy war. That's why they hate Israel. That's why they hate us. And they're not going to just magically get their teeth kicked in by Israel, get bombed into oblivion as far as their nuclear program by us, and then walk away 24 hours later like nothing's happened. No, that ain't happening. It's a religious holy war. So we'll see how it turns out. But either way, Trump's got a setup on him. There's no doubt about it.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. And Seaball just wishes he was Trump.
He's a much smaller version. Much smaller. Doesn't have the kahunas. He didn't even have the kahunas to come on the show. Come on out.
Well, y'all just remember, according to Seabiscuit, apparently, if you support term limits, you are just a useful idiot. You're an idiot. You don't have a brain for yourself.
That includes the Republican women
and his father-in-law running for U.S. Senate. I just didn't know he was supporting Blake over John Fleming. I had no idea.
All right. So we'll see. All right. What else, Mr. Lowry?
Oh, I got to get out of here before I lose my crap. That's it.
Hey,
that's all I got.
One more thing before we go. We've got some hats for sale on the website, and we have some more apparel and shirts coming. Don't forget, go to shop.bossierwatch.com. That will help us out. This show costs a lot of money to produce, not to mention the time that Duke spends and I both spend. So, helping us out a little bit helps us all get better content out here. And we thank everybody that has helped in the past as well. All right, Mr. Lowry, with the sales pitch done, let's get out of here before we get struck by lightning.
Good night, everybody. Y'all be safe. We'll see y'all next time.